Just put her in gear, hit the button. Oh, she started up. The windows go up by themselves. Don't usually do this thing, Liddy. Here we go. We're going. So, this thing is supposed to be a, what do you call it? Manual. Alright. It's my neighborhood. It's going out here. Alright everybody, I'm now driving what is called an Alto Works. It's a Kei car, so it's a 3-cylinder, I don't know, like 666 cubic centimeter engine. It's got 5 forward gears, 1 reverse, all in the wrong spot. Reverse, of course, is the Japanese style, so it's right below 5th, which means you can't slide it over. Which means, if you're silly and you're not a very good driver, and I've done this once or twice, you end up putting the car into reverse whilst coasting down a hill meant to be going in gear 4. Yeah. Well, of course, the car won't go in. It'll reject it. There's a bump. There's a pothole. Yeah, there's even potholes here in Japan. Sometimes. Alright. Okay. So we're actually headed to my daughter's hoikuen, which is like daycare. Gotta wait here, there's a car coming. Big car. See, I normally drive a, it's called a Suzuki Every. It's like a little van. And this bad boy has the same size engine, but no turbo. And it's a much larger car. I don't know what else they did to this thing. This has a turbo inside, so there's a bit of a turbo lag. But it, despite being a small car with a tiny little engine, actually sorry, mid-sized car for a Kei type of car, with a tiny little engine, it actually picks up pretty well. We're going to see what this thing can do. Kind of. I'm not like a race driver or anything. But we're just going to cross the street. 0 to 70, and who knows what that was. 70 kilometers an hour. All right. Probably don't want to do that too much. I started in gear 2, so I don't know. I'm not a race driver. I probably could have done better if I started in gear 1. Probably shouldn't do it though. This is a residential street. Oh, wow, so much traffic. That's another Kei car. So check that out. See that yellow one ahead of us? That's kind of a Kei car. And that little Kei truck, it's very similar to what I have, except mine's a van, so it's covered all the way back. You can put a lot of stuff inside of it. It's pretty cool. Anyway, what I wanted to really chat about in this video was, and I'm doing this whole vlogger thing. Yeah. Alright, vlogger thing today is going to be about this car. And the reason I have this car, it's not my car. I'm borrowing it from Suzuki, and the reason is because every 2 years you got to take your car to a government approved inspection thing, which I think minimum price is around $400 to $500. And it just makes sure that your car is safe to drive on the road. No, that doesn't mean that you're going to be safe to drive on the road, of course. But it does mean that the government thinks your car is safe to drive. I'm not so sure about that. Anyway, my car is now 4 years old, so it's the second time. It's costing me, imagine this, every 2 years, take it through Suzuki and, get the parts that needs to be replaced, do standard maintenance and all that, around $900 every 2 years for a car that I bought in cash for around $9,000. So every 2 years I'm paying 1/10 the price of a brand new car, which is no longer worth anywhere near that, to keep it on the road. Insane. It's not worth it. I mean, it holds Nimotu, or it holds luggage. It gets from point A to point B. It spills coffee because it's not got great suspension. And for some reason, I gotta pay every 2 years around $900. Now, if I took it to a gasoline station, I didn't get any of the, oil change packs, etc., whatever else you need to do. Don't need to do, but it's cheaper that way. You pay around, I think the minimum is around $450. But again, they're not going to replace all my filters. They're not going to give me the 6-month safety checks, or not not safety checks, but maintenance checks, which they will do now with this pack. I don't know if it's worth it, but it's even $500 or $450 every 2 years is a lot of money for one of these cars, one of these Kei cars. Let's ask my daughter if she likes it. Hey lady, you know what, you're gonna turn. Do you like this car? What's that? Oh, your window? You want your window to go down a bit? Do you want to go down? Alright, I got electronic controls in the back as well. Okay, for a window, it's pretty damn cool. I hope that... Okay, lady, just a moment, okay? Alright. We are driving... I actually have my tripod next to me. It's totally going to be a wobbly camera. I've got my tripod next to me. It's going to be complete wobbly camera footage, whatever it's called. Not even sure why I'm doing it like this, but I hope I don't get arrested. I hope it's not illegal. I hope my license is, working. Hopefully that it's within the time frame. Anyway, so I got this car while they get my car ready for the government to approve it to be on the road. It's only a 4-year-old car. I have to get it approved. So they gave me this car. And I said I wanted something smaller, and the reason was, and sportier for a couple of days that it takes to do my car. The reason is because my daughter said that she wanted something smaller and sportier. We're driving on the way to Koikoi and she sees a small white sporty car and she's like, Papa, you gotta get that one. And I'm like, I drive a little van so I can haul Nimots or luggage, for work. And anyway, they didn't have a white one, but they had a kind of sporty one, and I'm pretty stoked with this car. Kind of. It's in terms of power, it's a small engine, yeah, in a small car, but it's roughly, I'm gonna just spitball here. It reminds me of the type of power that was in a regular Golf variant estate, if you put it in sports mode. About like that. But that sports mode works whether you had 3 people in or maybe even 4. And this one, I'm guessing, is once you put more than 2 people in the car, that power is going to go drop down seriously. So you're not going to get 0 to 100 kilometers an hour fast in any sort of, any but relative terms. It's way faster than my van, but that's it. Now, next thing, little ladies and gentlemen, is this. I rented, and it was awesome, kind of. I rented the Canon R, not RP, but the EOS R. Prior to that, I rented the Canon 5D Mark IV for 3 days, and now I use the same company to rent the Canon R for 3 days. That thing, I'm really glad I rented it. I tried it in Yodobashi 2 or 3 times, and I thought it was, decent, I guess. I tried it with a 70-200 f4 EF lens, mounted, of course, with the adapter, and it, focused fast. It seemed reliable, but in the span of 20 minutes or whatever it takes to, touch and try a camera at a store, you don't really get to try it out. So I got to try it out in the darkest recesses of my house, attached to the only proper EF lens I have, autofocus EF lens, which is a 17-35, something from the 1990s, which, it's not a great fast performing lens in terms of autofocus, and it's not that sharp, but it gives me a good baseline. I know how it performs on an ATD, I now know how it performs on a 5D Mark IV, and now I know how it performs on an EOS R. And in the darkest recesses of my house, where I'm pointing the camera at a bicycle, where my eyes can see the shape of the bicycle, but are having trouble differentiating the colors, which are the backing wall, which is something like beige, and then the bicycle, which is essentially blue. It all looks kind of black against kind of a greenish background. Now, I don't have the best color reception in my eyes, but with the Canon ATD, it'll slowly but smoothly lock in at just same exposure, and the 5D Mark IV does the same, actually very reliably. What I'm surprised about is the Canon R. Now, it's supposed to focus down to like -5 at f2. Now, of course, this is an f2 lens, and who knows what -5 really means. And of course it's an adapted lens, so it's not going to perform as well. But ladies and gents, it was at least a step behind the 80D, which just went straight in. With the Canon R, I had to overexpose the image quite a bit, so knock down the frame rate, make sure that in the viewfinder it was not dark as I see with my eyes, which the DSLR could focus in. Of course the DSLR has no choice because it has to go through the optical viewfinder, but it had to brighten up. I had to brighten up the screen so that it looked like maybe a stop or maybe 2 stops probably brighter than I saw with my eyes in order for it to focus on the same spot. So yeah, it focused and it was actually quite reliable and smooth at that setting. But it was, if you wanted to shoot it like you would and get an image like you would get with that you see with your eyes, you can't do it, because what happens is you end up having to overexpose. So the DSLR wins hands down for that sort of thing, which is a real shame, because otherwise the Canon R was pretty damn impressive. I got to be honest. Focusing from point to point, back and forth in single or in servo was quick. In fact, in some ways I would say it definitely kept up with the EOS 5D Mark IV, and it certainly in many ways kept up with the 80D, which of course has just an okay autofocus system. Well, the EOS R wasn't as good for things that randomly came in the frame and then moved around. It wasn't able to track them like the 5D Mark IV, which was damn good. And it couldn't necessarily focus down in the dark as well. Again, with an adapted lens, I assume, or at least I've heard, that it does a much better job when in doing native lenses. But I have no idea. I assume that whole behavior where you have to overexpose the image also applies for native lenses. Whatever the case, EOS R not good in that situation. Certainly not as good, but it's okay. Oh, punch bug! There's a punch bug, Liddy. There's a punch bug. Ah, you're too far. Ah! Oh, I would never punch my daughter like that. Not like that. All right. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't focus as good in light. Same light, dark light, unless you overexpose it, as the DSLRs. But the face tracking was really impressive. And here's kind of an unimpressive thing. The company that I rented it from basically didn't touch the camera at all, because I was renting it in late April. I think it was from the 26th to 29th or 27th to 30th. Firmware 2.0 had already come out, and the firmware that was installed on that camera, unfortunately, was 1.00. So that ignores, I think, 2 prior firmwares that fixed some bugs or whatever. But even with firmware 1, I was reasonably impressed. Certainly with single shot or whatever it's called, autofocus, another basically servo for general tracking was pretty damn good. But 1.2, the number of keepers I was getting when I was using the face tracking was really good. The number of keepers I was getting otherwise, this thing is not going to compare with the Sony A7, which, as far as I'm concerned, probably as good as the Canon 5D Mark IV, just about for tracking, and certainly for face tracking, much better, because of course it's got the full-time live view and all that. But the Canon, the R, which a lot of people sort of pish-poo, it's not got as good frame rate, it's definitely not made for action, it's not as well weather sealed, etc. It's not a sport camera, was rather impressive. And I put it into high continuous servo at 1.2 or firmware 1.2, and it did phenomenally well, at least certainly better than I was expecting from all the commentary on the internet, and the image quality was excellent out of it. Enough so that if I had the money, and I don't have the money right now because the bloody shaking that I gotta do for this car. Now that's not the old person doesn't, jeez, just get on their bike and hop right across the road. They don't check. There's a car coming. It's amazing Japan is quite a blend of, I suppose you could say, traditional culture with ultra modern. So it's got modernism written all over it, and then it mixes every once in a while with tradition, and the tradition of course is kept alive through celebration of culture, as well as old people that are still alive and still do things as if there weren't cars on the road, which is, I think, beautiful, but it's dangerous at the same time. Anyway, we have now arrived at my daughter's hoikuen, which is her daycare. Unfortunately, neither mom or papa can take care of her at the moment, but I'm thinking of quitting my day job to do it because I don't like this idea. Anyway, see you later. This Thursday thing is being brought to you by the Japanese government shaking me down for $1,000, as well as, very briefly, my thoughts on the Canon EOS R mirrorless camera. Pretty good, but I'm not sure I'm ready to go full-time mirrorless. Maybe in the next couple of years. Let's turn this thing off. I just hit a button. I like that. Kind of like that wireless key thing. All right, lights are off. Camera's off. DSLR in the window. And this bad boy, it's time to turn you off.